We come to our second discussion of the book of Proverbs. As I said last week, there are 3 books in the Bible that I think every Christian ought to read all the time. One is the book of Proverbs, one is the Psalms, and one is the book of Acts. These 3 books, I think, do more to keep a Christian what he ought to be than any books in the Bible. Now, there are books in the Bible that I think are more important books in the Bible. For example, I think the 3 key books in the Bible, if there are only 3 books in the Bible that I thought you ought to know, and if I had to scratch out all the rest of the Bible, I would, and could only have 3 books, I would have Genesis, Romans, and Revelation. I think those books, if I could have only 3 books and to know, then I'd rather have those 3, because in Genesis you tell where we came from, in Revelation you tell where we're going to, and in Romans you tell how to get there. And that's about the most important things about the Bible. Where we came from to where we're going and how do you get there. And you get those in Genesis, Romans, and Revelation. However, for the Christian devotional life, and for the Christian being what he ought to be, the Psalms will keep you sweet. They'll keep you praising God. They'll keep you rejoicing and thanking God for His goodness. We're learning in our own family devotion. I'd put it for you if I'd learned it very well. The 91st Psalm now. We're to the 91st Psalm. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, and from the noisome pestilence. He will cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler, and on and on and on it goes. Beautiful, beautiful thing. So if you want to keep your praise right, and your love for God right, and your rejoicing right, read the Psalms. In the Reader's Digest, I'm going in 3s tonight. The 3 most important books of the Christian are Psalms, Proverbs, and Acts, and the 3 most important books in the Bible are Genesis, Romans, and Revelation. We take 3 magazines at our house. Only 3 as far as I know. Well, I take one magazine about athletics because I'm a sports nut, but the family magazine, we take, what do we take? We take National Geographic, which is one of the greatest magazines in the world today. I can't understand why anybody would take some stupid, lustful, sensual magazine when you absolutely, if you will read National Geographic once a month, you will get an education within a year's time about geography, and it's beautiful, beautiful magazine. Then we take Reader's Digest and Better Homes and Gardens. I just love that. But anyway, these 3. But in Reader's Digest this month, there's an article on the Psalms. Did you know that? An article on the Psalms in the Reader's Digest this month. And the Psalms keeps you sweet, and the Proverbs keeps your character. I didn't say keeps you a character. It keeps your character right. It'll build integrity and decency and morality and integrity and honesty. And then, of course, the book of Acts tells you how to live. The book of Acts will make you start a bus route. Or if you've got one, it'll make you increase the work you're doing on the one now. The book of Acts will make you build your Sunday school class and bring some people to Sunday school and make you have number 6 and 66. The book of Acts will keep you in real New Testament Christianity. Now, in the book of Proverbs, we come to the 2nd chapter, and the 2nd chapter of Proverbs can be summed up in 2 statements. 1, what we are to do with wisdom, and 2, what wisdom will do for us. What we are to do with wisdom. Now, if you want to have the verses on that, verses 1 through 4 give you what we are to do with wisdom. Verses 5 through 22 give you what wisdom will do for us. Now, this is the outline of Proverbs chapter 2. I'd like for you to answer me a question or 2. Who collected the Proverbs? Solomon. And Solomon's father was named David. Talk to me now. His mother's name was Bathsheba. Did Solomon write all these Proverbs? No, he did not. He collected them. Solomon, what profession was he? Most of it, as we know him as a what? As the king of Israel. What was he? The oldest child, middle child, youngest child of his mother and father? Youngest child. there are 10 reasons or 10 things that, well, 10 words that give us the reason of the writing of Proverbs. Could you give me one or two of those? Well, let's look at them in verse 2. To know wisdom, that's one. Instruction, perception or to perceive, understanding, justice, judgment, equity, subtlety, knowledge, and discretion. 10 things that purposes for the writing of the book. Now, to whom was the book written basically? Uniquely, to whom is the book of Proverbs written? Young people. People who have not yet, and the word simple there means no fold, which means that the people whose lives are not complicated yet. Well, let me ask you this, should older people read it? Older, wise people what? Will. That's right. So consequently, the wise man Solomon, he said that now I'm talking to the simple ones, the ones who are not folded yet, the ones to whom life is not complicated yet. But he's saying, you, the wise older people, they will listen to this. So consequently, if you're wise, you will certainly listen to the words of the teachings of Solomon. Now then, I want you to notice, number one, what we are to do with wisdom. Let's look at verse 1, please. My son. I want to say a few words about the word my son. A tutor or a teacher spoke of his scholars or his pupils as a son. We would call a college professor a professor. Or what else? Prof, teacher, instructor, and the enrollees would call what? Students or pupils or what? Learners. Now in this day, they call the tutor or the teacher, they called him the father. He was called the father. Oftentimes. The son, or pardon me, the learner or the pupil was called the son. Now, actually, Solomon is writing this to his son. But it also carries a dual connotation that these words are written to his son, but a father should also be as a professor to a son, and the son should be a student to the father. So every father should teach his children what's in the book of Proverbs. And every parent should instruct his children about the teachings in the book of Proverbs. So Solomon is writing to his son, but he's writing to his son not only as a father, but as a dual relationship, as a tutor, as a teacher, as a professor. As the teacher-student relationship, also the father and son relationship. Now let's go further. My son, if thou wilt receive my words, and hide my commandments with thee. Now I want you to circle the word hide. The word hide. This is the first of 5 things we are to do with wisdom, and especially young people. Number 1, we are to hide. Now circle the word hide and write beside it, to save as a treasure. To save as a treasure. That's what it means in the original. To save as a treasure. Now the first thing we're to do with wisdom is called here knowledge and understanding and discretion and so forth. But the first thing that we're to do with wisdom, and especially young people, is to save it like a treasure. Now it implies here the putting of money in the bank. We are to take wisdom and deposit it in the bank. We are to stack it up. We are to put it, hide it, to save it as we would a treasure. How many of you have a savings account? Would you lift your hand, please? Well, if I want to see who they are. They come in handy someday. All right, good. How many of you systematically, regularly put money in that account? I mean, so much per decade or so much per century. How many put something at least once a month, and it's regular, same amount every month about in your savings account? Would you lift your hand, please? How many never put anything in? How many take it out more than you put it in? All right, now we're down to where I live. But anyway, actually, some of you said you put money in the bank regularly. Now what you do is you stack it up. You're piling it up. Well, I expect some of you have $75 piled up already. And so you're piling the money up in the bank. Now, Solomon said that we are to pile up wisdom. Here's what it means. It means that we are to learn everything we can. We are to become as wise as we can. Even if we don't need the teachings of the book of Proverbs now, we will someday. So every time we can, learn some bit of wisdom, some bit of knowledge, some bit of perception. Every time we can learn some new thing of character, integrity, we ought to hide it. We ought to deposit it. We ought to save it because we'll use it. How many of you, your mother or father taught you something when you were kids, and you didn't think they knew what they were talking about? You thought they were, as Rick Wayne Scott said, they don't call him a square anymore at school. They call him a cube nowadays. But he's four square. But anyway, how many of you thought your mother and daddy were squares? Or maybe you didn't think you needed what they told you. But after you've grown up, you have had to pull out some of those treasures they taught you that you save and use them after you've grown up. You didn't need them then, but you've used them since then, have you? That's what it means here. Thank you. Now, look, you take that young'un of yours, or those young'uns of yours, and you set them down and say, now listen, you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do this, and this, and this, and this. And young folks, you say, well, I don't need that. No, you don't need it, but you will need it. So whatever you learn, whatever wisdom, instruction, knowledge, discernment you get, save it as a treasure. Pile it up. I was thinking today, many times, something my mother has said has kept me out of trouble. Many times. I have reached back and gotten some of the truths that mother taught me as a boy, that she beat in my thick skull, and I did not use them then. But many times I have faced something in life as an adult, as a preacher, and I have reached back and pulled out of my treasury of wisdom taught me by my mother, and I have used it. And so young people, hide wisdom, hide knowledge, hide instruction. The first thing that we are supposed to do for wisdom is hide it. Let's go further. Down to verse 2. So that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom. Circle the words incline thine ear. Write a 2 beside that and a 1 beside the word hide up there. 2 beside incline thine ear and a 1 beside hide. Now all it means, incline thine ear, is listen carefully. Listen carefully. Every person in this building tonight, except one, has someone in this building older than you are. Now, I'm not going to find out who that one is. But every person in this building tonight has someone older than you are in this building, except one. That someone could teach you something. Can I give you a little motto of mine that I don't know, I'm sure somebody's called it a thought, but nobody ever put it this way because this is original with me. The thought is not, I'm sure. Here it is. Every man knows something that I do not know. Every man knows something that I do not know. I must probe until I find it. Hence, all men have become my teachers. Every man knows something that I do not know. I must probe until I find it. Hence, all men are my teachers. Some of the finest thoughts that I've gotten in my ministry. There's a fellow in this pastor school that was at Bill Rice Ranch last summer. He has a church that runs about 85 in Sunday school. Now, you'll forgive me for saying this, but he almost worships me. He really does. He and I have one thing in common. We almost worship me. But anyway, he does. He follows me around. If I'm preaching anywhere within 1,000 miles, where he is, he's there. Funny thing. I preached at Bill Rice Ranch and sat down beside him. Now, bear in mind this, he's never had a church, runs over 100 in Sunday school. And I sat down beside him, and I said, could I use your Bible a minute? Mine was all paper clipped up. I couldn't turn something quickly. He said, sure, I opened it, and opened it to a sermon. It was a fabulous sermon. I thought, boy, oh boy, what a sermon. You know what I did? In that service, I outlined 10 sermons out of his one. 10. I preached all 10 of them. Of course, I spent hours and hours studying after it, but got the idea for 10 sermons. Now, that little old runt that couldn't build a church past 100, after I finished my sermon, he had a note paper out, and he was taking notes on my sermon. And he had the name Jack Hyles and had the date there. So after I finished my sermon, I looked at it. There was not a note there. He didn't get a thing out of it. But I got 10 sermons out of his outline. He didn't even get a word out of my sermon. Look, the fella who is the biggest ignoramus in this world is the fella who thinks that nobody can teach him. So, incline thine ear. Listen to people. I said to a fine man of our church today, I said it is so important that in every phase of our lives that we seek counsel and that we listen to others. Young people, even if you don't think Mother knows what this is about, and even though you think that 30 years ago was the Dark Ages, and you think that Mama was a girl, that our kid said yesterday, Becky said, I want a telephone in my room. Well, our house is big. We have a telephone system. We almost have to have an operator at our house, switchboard. But I said, well, when I was a kid, and she said, hold it. Hold it. She said, I know what you did. You walked 5 miles in the snow to school every morning. You know, that's the usual stuff. And she started kidding me a bit. And I said, no, I said, we had lived in a house, and it was a duplex, 2 apartments, and we just sawed a hole in the wall between the 2 apartments and put a telephone in the hole. And both families shared the telephone. And she said, well, yeah, but that was back so far ago that nobody knew how to talk on a telephone in the old days. Now, I know you young folks think we're outdated, but let me tell you what. Did you know that we wore clothes and suits and overcoats and hats, and there was such thing as automobile and everything else when we were kids? It may seem like a long time ago to you. But now, even though you don't think we know a thing, at least listen. Incline your ear. Listen. Oh, if I could say one thing to old and young alike, I would say what Solomon said. We'll get to it later on. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. Now, granted that many decisions I make alone, but how many times, staff, they'll verify this. How many times do I get up from my desk and I walk around the staff from office to office and I say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? How many times last Sunday morning, I was going to do something in my class. Before I went to my class, I went to junior high 2. My wife was up leading the singing. And I called my wife out of the department. She stopped the song and came out. And I asked her advice about something. Listen, always seek advice. Incline your ear to wisdom. That's the second reason for the writing accordingly. Second thing that we ought to do with wisdom. All right, look at verse 2 again. Let thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, circle the words criest after, and the words liftest up thy voice. Circle both of those and write a 3. That's the third thing we ought to do for wisdom, is cry for it. Cry for it. We ought to be asking for it. Seeking it. All right? Verse 4. If thou seekest her as silver, circle the word seekest her as silver. And write a 4 beside that. We are to seek wisdom as silver. Now, many of us spend much of our lives seeking silver. This morning you went to work, you worked hard all day seeking silver. Many of you have invested much of your life seeking silver. Our society is built on seeking silver. If I said tonight that I'm going to, after the service tonight, I'm going to scramble silver dollars out in front of the church, 80-year-old women would pull the hair of 85-year-old women trying to get that money. And not a one of you would leave the service without going out there and getting in the scramble. And after I scrambled, I'd fight you to the end to get my share of it. There's something about silver, isn't there? Something about silver. I could take $2 worth of merchandise and scramble it, you wouldn't try to get it. But I could take half that much of silver, money. There's something in man that makes him want money. And the writer said, We should seek wisdom like silver, like we'd seek money. Let me tell you a story. Down in the land of Brazil, especially in Rio de Janeiro, many years ago, when slavery was very prevalent, they would take slaves, would go to the river or the ocean, and they would take and strain the rocks and the particles at the bottom of the water, carefully strain it, looking for gold pieces. And if a slave found a gold piece, he was set free. Only if he found a gold piece. Any slave that found a gold piece was set free. And those slaves would go down to the water, they'd pick up the particles from the bottom of the water, and they would carefully examine it, and day after day after day they would look and look and look and look, hoping that if they kept looking and kept looking and kept looking, they could find some gold or silver or gold, and thereby be set free. My Bible says, Solomon said, seek knowledge, seek wisdom, as gold and as silver. Read the Bible, read it, read it, read it, read it, read it. And in so doing, you will find things that will set you free and set you at liberty. That's the fourth reason. All right, what's the first thing we should do with wisdom? Hide it. As what? As a treasure. As putting money in the bank. Number two, what should we do? Incline our ear or listen carefully. Number three, cry for it. Number four, we're to seek it as what? Silver. Okay, number five. And searches for her as for hid treasures. We're to search as for hidden treasure. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now these things we are to do with wisdom. Let's read it again now. Verse 1, my son, if thou receive my words, hide my commandments. We're to hide these things. Put it in the bank. Save it for a rainy day. Verse 2, thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after, and knowest knowledge, lift up thy voice for understanding. Seek it as silver. Search for her as for hidden treasure. Now the question comes, where do you find wisdom? There's only one place you get wisdom. You get wisdom the same place you get salvation. Now you hear me now. You get wisdom the same place you get salvation, and you get wisdom the same way you get salvation. There are three things you get from the same place and get the same way, and there's no other way to get them. Number one, salvation. You can work and work, you can train and train, you can study and study, you can go to school and go to school, but you'll never get salvation unless you come to God and get it by faith. Number two, the fullness of the Holy Spirit. Fullness of the Holy Spirit, no place you can get the power of God except from God, and no way you can get that power but by faith. It is appropriated by faith. Third, wisdom. That's a good sermon outline. Three things you get only from God, and only faith can get them. One, salvation. Two, the Holy Spirit power. And three, wisdom. Now listen to me. You may be an ignoramus, but you can have wisdom. You may have to write an X when it's the place for your signature, but you can have wisdom. James 1:5 says, if any man among you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Look, for many years, three things have taught. Here I go again. Three things. Tonight I'm on three. Three things have taught my prayer list for many, many years. As far as I can remember as a preacher, three words have taught my prayer list. One, power. Two, love. Three, wisdom. That's it. One, power. Two, love. Three, wisdom. I've prayed for power 10,000 times, and I mean that more than any other thing I've prayed for in my ministry. Number two, I've prayed for love. Second. Number three, I've prayed for wisdom. And those three things, if a preacher or a Christian worker has those three things, he's got it made. Power, love, wisdom. Power without love and wisdom is wildfire. Love without power is liberalism, and wisdom is liberalism. And wisdom without love and power is intellectualism. but love, power, wisdom. What a dynamite phrase.